What stage should you be farming for the brand new dungeon coming to raid? Let's find out together. What up team, it is MurderInc back on the test server. Made that guide on how to beat the brand new dungeon, Al Neme, in Sand Devil's Necropolis. Now the question is, once he is released, what dungeon level is going to be farmed for you? How are you going to make it happen? That's what we're here to talk about today. Because as mentioned in the previous video, beating him is going to be the easy part until you start getting to the overtuned editions of this dungeon, making it not optimal for it, right? So I went over the mechanics. I explained how to beat this guy. He's not that hard to beat. His mechanics are brilliantly done, but they can be countered quite easily. And so now they have the knowledge to get around the stats, how to build against him. The question is going to be, where are you going to farm, right? So the obvious thing would be, okay, the first stage you can get superior oil is going to be stage 17. So that should be the goal of most players, right? Not quite. Before we do that, you have to go see your gear. Gear is the most important thing to look at first when I'm talking about this, because the amount of mats that it takes to upgrade gear is going to matter the most. So let's just go ahead and start with early game since this piece is right here. How much does it cost to ascend a piece of 4-star gear? Artifact must be level 12. How silly of me for not knowing that. Instant upgrade to 12. Bam, we're here. So if I want to ascend a 4-star piece once, it is going to be 30 of these small essence. All the way to 4, I'm still going to need the medium oil. I don't know why I'm calling it essence. I'll stick to oil for now. So small essence and medium essence, all the way to a complete 4-star ascension. So we don't need the bigger ones. Now let's take a look at the 5-star gear. If I can find some, let's go ahead, rank and rarity, 5-star, bam. So upgrade here, ascend, still don't need the superiors for a 5-star piece, but that's only to ascend it to 4. So the ascension to 4 still doesn't require superiors yet, but we can go all the way to 5. I'm not sure why it doesn't auto upgrade to 5 instead of 4. Maybe that's a visual bug, I'm not sure, but the question is going to be, how much benefit do you really get from ascension 1 to 5? So this landed on flat HP out of everything. Based on this piece of gear, since we're stacking accuracy, I'm probably going to want some survivability on this champion, so nothing too bad here for sure. So now let's see what it's going to take to go all the way up to 5. Let's go ahead and ascend this to 4. And now the final is going to take 15 superiors on a 5-star piece. Now, keeping this in mind here, you have to think to yourself, for your account progression, how big of a swap is this going to be in using the superiors from a 4-star to a 5-star ascendancy? That's what I want people to understand. So when you first look at this, of course you want all 5 stars. However, as far as efficiency goes, based on how hard it is to get superiors, I mean, just think about the normal potion dungeon to ascend your champions. We all know that you can get the lowest level of the oil or potions in that case when farming the final stage. Is it right? No. Is it going to happen? 100%. Is the new dungeon very hard as far as current scaling goes? Yes. So if you're failing a lot, it's not going to be worth going out of your way for those superiors instead of just farming the first 2, only ascending it to 4, 3, 2, or 1 just to get that little bump in stats that can quite literally skyrocket your progression. I think that's one thing that a lot of people aren't grasping quite yet. They're saying the new system is terrible because what if you have a piece on a nuker? Like I've seen this and heard this way too many times, so let's just talk about it since we're here. What happens if you get crit damage gloves with crit rate? Let's just find a double roll if I have any lying around. Okay, so we have a triple roll right here, right? What happens if I have a piece like this and I hit ascend, right? Okay, so I happen to get a crazy stat. But what happens if this was HP percent? Flat HP, flat defense. Is this a dead piece? The answer is obviously not. Am I ever going to sell this piece? The answer is obviously not. Lifesteal gear, I have more of an edge since it is lifesteal gear, but giving your nuker more survivability is never a bad thing. People say, oh, you farm so hard for the 6-star gear, you get a triple roll in crit rate, a single roll in attack, then you roll HP percent, flat HP, flat defense, and the piece is dead. Is the piece really dead? If this was the best crit damage gloves in my account, it would still be the best crit damage gloves in my account. Now, is it OP that I just rolled crit rate? Yeah. Was I hoping I got something bad for this video? Secretly, yeah. To further explain how little of a big deal it is, but unfortunately that didn't fly for me, so let's just go ahead. I can't ascend it anymore. I'm out of the mediums here, so that's what it is for this. Now, that's going to be subject to opinion, of course. However, looking at it statistically, efficiently, no piece is dead just because you rolled a bad stat that in your head doesn't align with where the piece is supposed to go. Survivability is never a bad thing. Getting something like crit rate, crit damage, attack on a defensive champion, is that going to be rough on a really good piece? Of course. There's no current way to reroll it yet, but they specifically said at this point in time in the game, there's no way to reroll gear. Based on that wording, it's quite obvious that they are going to give us a way to reroll all of this stuff, so I'm not worried about that at all. Your best piece is still your best piece regardless of how the Ascension rolls. Thinking otherwise is just illogical, no matter how you look at it. There's literally zero argument to that. So with that being said, on what we found out for the Ascensions here, for 4-star gear and for 5-star gear, now we have to go back to the dungeon and take a look at what can we do to ascend up to a certain point that isn't full and farm it efficiently. Like I said, it's quite some time before we have to start using superior oil on our champions. So if you are someone that's early game, your goal could be level 10, but you will still get the early levels of the gear you have by doing literally stage 1 through whatever. If you want to farm stage 1, go ahead and farm stage 1. As long as you can guarantee 100% win rate on your teams, that's going to be the proper thing to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start high only because I know the stats. So if I need 270 speed at 25, I'm just going to subtract by 5 and just take a guess and we'll see if I'm right. So 70, 65, 60, 55, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30. So if I'm correct and everything drops by 5 speed, this is going to be a 230 speed boss at stage 17, which that's a pretty decent amount of speed, right? So how are we going to test this? We're going to find someone with just under 230 speed, so 226, I would say that's pretty just under, right? So raise 226. Unfortunately, we cannot use her aura, so wait, does her aura apply to dungeons? Quick. Champion knowledge check. Who knows who is currently watching this? Speed in dungeon 33%. Okay, so that's not going to fly. What happens if I do this? Does she just not have an aura? Let's see. Okay, so let's see if we're correct here. If the boss goes first, I'm possibly right. Okay, so I think it is that easy. Now let's go ahead, edit team, apply it with the aura, which would bring me above 230, I'm pretty sure. And now I'm going first. So, if we're not convinced here, I mean, look at the difference. It's just right there, so it's very likely it is 230 speed. But just to be sure, we're going to go back to champions, recently used. Let's see how we can flip this to exactly 230 speed, plus 3, 229. It's not gonna fly. Can I just pop a, no, 11, 4. I don't think it's gonna be possible with this, so we're gonna have to go to our gear and find something here with speed on it. We need to get a +1 from somewhere. That's -1 plus, what is the +3? The +3 is template, so I need 11 speed. There's the +1. So we are now currently 230 speed on the dot with no aura. So let's go back to the boss here. Have a look. What do we say? 17? Yes, stage 17. So 230 speed on the dot. Just kidding, I'm using the aura on this. Of course, I'm gonna go first. Let's edit team. Slide the champion to the right. No aura, 230 speed. Here we are. Okay, so we are exactly the speed of the boss, and we go first because we as the players are much better than this boss. Plarium knows it, everyone knows it. So there you have it. This is 230 speed, which means we can easily determine the speeds of the rest of the dungeon here. Starting at 270, going all the way down by 5, 230 once we get to 17, so on and so forth. So if you are in the endgame crowd, your first goal for building a team and investing materials, silver, all of that good stuff on a team would be speed tune the first stage that gives you the superior oils. So if you're endgame, this is your goal. You want to hit this straight out the gate as soon as it goes live, 100% win rate this, and then slowly increase your speed by 5 until you start failing due to a gear check, and then you're done. That is the advice only if you're endgame, which is going to be like such a small percent of the player base, but a decent percent of the people watching this video here today. Now, if you're not endgame, the majority of my watchers, which is going to be quite a few people, where do you stop next? This is where you have a lot more freedom here. So very quickly, just looking at the drop rates of the number here, we have 4 to 5 graders on the bottom, and then it's 3 to 4 pretty much across the board. So since the chances of getting these are going to be slightly different, so realistically, basing this off of the information we have from the Potion and Keep dungeons, stage 11 is going to serve our purpose the best here because it's a 9 to 10, 1 up from 8 to 10, and we're getting 3 to 4. We don't even have to look at the greater oils here. But we have 2 stages at 9, 1 at 8, 2 at, and 3 at 10. So farming stage 15, probably not going to be optimal for many players. Actually, scratch that. We have 4 stages giving 10 lesser oils. So you can kind of see where this is going here. Yes, the drop chances are going to be higher, but it's about the possibility of what you can get based on one single run. And the minimums are clearly set in front of us. So with that being said, 13 is a good spot, as well as stage 11. We can go ahead and pick whatever we want. So if we have 230 speed here, 225 speed, 220, 215, 210 on stage 13. So this is going to be good for the kind of late game people looking to farm, start getting their 6-star gear rolling for sure. After that, after stage 13, this is where I would say you can kind of clump most of the community in. After stage 13, the goal is going to be push for 11. If 11 turns out to be really easy for your account, head straight to 13 after that and you're fine. You're fine to just chill there. If you really care enough, you can push up +5, +5, +5 for the small percentages, but just know things are going to get significantly more difficult if you try breaking up to the stage 20 dungeon mark because of how the boss mechanics work. So the next thing to think about before committing on a stage is going to be the Dreamless Sleep passive, which is the counter when he goes to sleep. The counter is going to be 10 on stages 1 through 5, making those the easiest stages in the game. 7 from 6 to 15. 7 is still a very good amount to have. And then once you get from stage 16 to 25, that's when the counter goes down to 5, which makes it much harder to start organizing teams around. So when I did in fact recommend stage 17, there's a reason why I said if you're end game only, go for stage 17 and slowly start working your way up. That should be a good starting part. And when you're late game, this is why I said 11 to 13 is going to be the ideal spot to stop, because I'm taking those counters into effect here. They fall in between the 7 count duration on the Dreamless Sleep state the boss will go in, because it falls within 6 to 15. So if you're mid game or late game, I would not look at anything above 15. I think it's going to be way out of reach, and respectively the match you're going to get are going to be sufficient to upgrade your gear to a proper point. Now if you're early game, once again, you can literally do anything you want, but we're still going to look at the most efficient places for you guys to farm here. So if I'm right, my math is right, and I counted properly, this stage 1 should be 155 speed. First, let's see if I have anyone at 155 speed. If not, we can make it happen. Ooh, he's close. Okay, so we have 140 speed. Let's see if I can bring this guy to that area. So we want gloves. We're looking for speed. Don't want just no. What do we got here? 149. Kind of a good way to test. See what goes first. That we would know for sure if I'm right, but let's aim for 10 speed for sure, if we can find it. So we're looking for a straight 10 speed on the gloves here. Barely we find something. Okay, we found it pretty quickly here. 10 speed, putting us at 150 speed. So let's see if it continues to scale equally all the way down here. Cupidus at 150. Okay, so 150 is going to be, as we calculated, the base speed for this, confirming it goes up by 5, starting at 150, going all the way up to 270 speed at the final stage here. So 150 speed, this is going to make building a team very, very easy for those early game players. But like I said, the tuning's a bit wonky, so you're probably going to get hit pretty hard despite speed not being an issue. And interestingly enough, it's also decreasing the max HP on the tooltip, at least in the test server here, down to 10%. So let's go ahead and test out if that's actually working as it says. I don't see why it wouldn't, but just for kicks, let's go ahead and try it out. We're going to use our super duper mega explode team that we saw being used in the other video. I won't need the revive on death, but we're going to use it just because we can. And I brought double Kaimar for absolutely no reason. So we're going to go ahead and refresh this. Nope, not this. Can't even click buttons properly today. That's an issue for sure. Edit team. We need to take the +3 out, add Xavier in, and go. So we're going to go ahead and use... I see. So this is where it gets problematic. Use this. Hopefully nobody laps the boss. That's what we're trying to avoid here. We just need this guy to go to sleep, which should be now. No one's gonna die, which is gonna be a little bit weird. So we use this skill. We got poison 1. Oh, that might have been too many debuffs. Let's see. Yeah, so we're missing a debuff slot. Let's see if it is capped. Okay, so it is capped all the way down to stage 1, which is something we haven't really seen before. So with that being said, your best options on the lower stages for building a team is going to move away from, which I think this is kind of bad design, but it is what it is, away from enemy max health champions and more for raw damage. But as we can see by just using an A1 here, raw damage is doing quite a bit of damage to this. So in a way, things are going to even out a bit. You can throw in like a random champion and you're going to do pretty well, even if it's your defense nuker. So with that, I kind of want to test this theory out just a little bit. I'm going to throw in Duchess so we can survive pretty much anything. And I'm going to find one of the nukers that I had that I used quite a long time ago. Hopefully they are still in their gear. I'm going to have to dig into the Master Vault for sure here. 6-star rare champions. Who was my starter? I know for a fact I started with Mr. Gallic. Hopefully he's still crit capped. He might not be, but let's go ahead and look anyways. You know what? I'll just take all of the starters out because I know half them all, even though Gallic is easily the best. So we'll do this. We'll go to team setup. We'll just pop in. Oh, do I really have to go through this again? Okay, scrolling all the way down to the rares. Let's see who in fact has gear on them. We have decent gear on the Kale. Nothing on Elaine. Nothing on... Oh, we're almost... This is pretty early game, actually. So Elaine might be the pick here. Gallic, the most geared for sure. He has a bit too much crit damage. Most early game players are not going to be hitting 195. He's also not crit capped, which kind of kills me inside a little bit, but this is much more reasonable. 2.4 thousand attack, 98% crit rate, still faster than the boss, 140 crit damage. So Elaine is who we're going to use here today. So let's just go ahead and see Elaine, aka Helen, how we do against this boss without a defense down. I mean, I guess I'll just bring a defense down just to test these things out, but let's see how much damage you can do with a suitable like arena nuking champion with the defense down and weaken. We'll just throw in a weaken here just so we can see how far raw damage goes for these early stages here. So we got to do a little bit of this, protect ourselves, pop him with the A1. Pretty decent damage. Okay, now we debuff the boss, defense down and weaken. A1, even though it's weak. Now we're going to use, I don't even know, what is her hard hitting ability? We have 2 here, attacks all enemies twice. I would assume it's this one. Okay, so 50,000 damage does quite a bit, and definitely quite a bit more than enemy max health champions. Unfortunately, I'm going to wake him up here, which kind of sucks. The debuffs are removed here. Well, now we'll just use this. So that's hitting for 10k total with no debuffs on. So, I mean, it's not the greatest, but it's still going to be better than 10% of the boss's health, as we can clearly see here. So 5,000, 5,000 again from the A1 ability. Now we just simply wait here for the sleep again, and we would have no problem just hitting the auto button on a team like this and just surviving until we can properly deal damage. Despite doing defense down on weaken, the team is in speed tune. So as we can see, for early game players, you're gonna have an easy time on the first stage for sure, because raw damage alone is gonna set you up good. If you are struggling with this boss, it's important to keep in mind that it's not going to be the end of the world. Just farm the lowest stage you can possibly do, get the free resources, make sure you have 100% win rate, and it's a fun boss, right? Is it hard? Yes, it's hard. Content always welcome. In my opinion, it's always welcome, and it's a properly designed boss. The fact that it costs energy, it is what it is. They're not going to put out a dungeon like this for free. I am so glad, and I think you'll all agree with me, that it isn't based on keys, because what do they do with the key system? They make it keys and energy. So now at least if you make a team that can farm this, you can in fact farm this to your heart's desire. There's no limit. You can go all out, upgrade all of your pieces once or twice as I recommended, see what the stats are, and just keep slowly building from there as you progress through the game with those extra stats. So those are the stages. Just to recap really quickly. Early game, just go as far as you can. We listed the speeds. The speeds are very low, and the damage you deal with raw damage altogether is going to be incredibly valuable. Once you start getting mid-game, late game, 11 to 13, going to be proper for sure. Endgame players, good luck to you all. I had a ton of fun making these teams. It was pretty easy to auto for an account like mine, which I know is a small percentage, all the way to 17. Some people are going to struggle a bit more, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be possible if you watched my last video. 25 on the other hand, I think there's maybe 150 people that can do this on auto in the game here. And I think there's even less who can do it in 2 minutes or less as of right now. As time goes on, people are going to figure something out crazy fast. Do I think it's going to get nerfed? Yes, once again. But that's the information I have for you guys now. So I wish you good luck when this comes out. Happy farming for sure, and I look forward to the progress you guys can make for a dungeon like this.